Hello students! Today we are going to demo how to measure different ingredients. So we're going to go through some staple ingredients. That means those are ingredients that you probably already have at home, ones that you use for a lot of different recipes. So it's super important to know how to measure these ingredients. So today my daughter is going to help us out today. She's going to show us how to measure some of those ingredients. So here we go. Okay, first we need to make sure we have all of the right tools. So we have some dry measuring cups. Those might be plastic, they might be metal, they can look different. We also have a liquid measuring cup out. So those can be glass or plastic. They're always see-through though, so that you can see the measurement markings on the side. We also have some measuring spoons out, a couple different sizes there. And then we have a spoon and a knife. And the knife will be for leveling off the ingredients, not cutting. We just needed that straight edge. Okay, first up is flour. And so when you're measuring flour, the number one thing is to not pack it down. You do not want to get too much flour in your container. And so a lot of times I see students scoop their measuring cup right into their container, kind of shake it off to level it, dump it in their bowl, and go on. But when you do that, you're actually getting way more flour than what you need for that recipe. So instead, when you're measuring flour, you want to try to keep it as light and as airy as you can. So you'll take your dry measuring cup, you'll take a spoon, and you'll scoop one spoonful in at a time, and then level it off. Adelaide, why don't you show us what that looks like? So one spoonful at a time until it's overflowing, kind of like a mountaintop. You do not want to shake it, otherwise you will end up getting too much flour because it will settle into your measuring cup. Okay, so at this point she's going to take the back of the butter knife, not the curved side, and just scrape off all that extra flour. And that is called leveling it off. So again, for flour, you scoop it in and level it off. Okay, our next ingredient is just regular white sugar. This is the easiest ingredient to measure. It is not picky at all. As long as you have a dry measuring cup, not liquid, and you fill it up until it's even with the top, you're good to go. So with white sugar, you can scoop it right into your container, unlike flour, or you can use the spoon and scoop it in like we did for the flour, and then you'll level it off. So we have a 1/2 cup dry measuring cup here. Adelaide is going to show us how to measure that white sugar out. So she's using the spoon to fill up the measuring cup. Again, you can scoop it right into your container to save time, or use a spoon and just go one scoop at a time. You're gonna add enough so it's overflowing, and then like the flour, you're gonna use the straight edge of the knife and level it off. So you're gonna get rid of all of that extra sugar on the top of the measuring cup. When you're baking, it's really important you have accurate measurements. So if you don't level it off, your product isn't going to turn out how it's supposed to. Okay, excellent. All right, next up is brown sugar. Adelaide, is brown sugar fun to measure?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's like sand.
It's like sand. So you might have kinetic sand at home. Maybe you've built a sandcastle before. Think of it like that. So with brown sugar, it does have some moisture in it. So you pack it down into your dry measuring cup. And then when you dump it out, it should hold the shape of your measuring cup. So let's give that a go. Again, dry measuring cup with brown sugar. So she's doing one spoonful at a time and then just flipping the spoon over and using the back of it to really press it into the dry measuring cup. And don't be shy of this. Don't just like tap it really lightly, press it in. You want to fit as much brown sugar into the cup as you can. And then when it's all the way to the top and overflowing a little bit, like our other dry ingredients, you'll use a straight edge and scrape off the extra. Okay, that looks good. Flip your knife over so it's the straight side. Okay, good. And then what does it look like when you dump it out? Perfect, so it holds the shape of the measuring cup. That is what we're looking for.
All right, we are moving on to our liquid measuring cup now, and we're gonna show you how to measure some water. But I did pull out some other ingredients that you can measure using the same method. Milk is a liquid, corn syrup, honey, any juices, vegetable oil, olive oil, anything that will flatten itself out or level itself out in a liquid measuring cup, you're gonna use this method. So I mentioned earlier that all liquid measuring cups are clear. This one's glass, you might have plastic ones at home. They all have a pouring spout, a handle, and then all of your measurement markings up the side. And so I'm gonna have Adelaide measure a half cup of water here, so we're gonna find that line. The big thing with liquids is that you hold it or set it down flat on the surface so that you bend down and look eye level with your measurement line. Never hold it up in the air and bring it up to your eyes because chances are you're not gonna be holding it perfectly flat. So always put it down on your counter or table so it's nice and flat and level. You bend down and look eye level and just slowly pour it in until it reaches that line. Okay, so crouch all the way down to eye level with the water. Is it right at that half cup mark? Okay, good. All right, last up we have our measuring spoons. So measuring spoons can be used for dry or liquid ingredients as long as it's just a little bit that you need. So the rule of thumb is anything less than 1/4 cup you can use measuring spoons for. Again, I said liquid or dry, so it might be oil, milk, water as liquids, or I have a bunch of dry ingredients here too, salt, pepper, baking soda, garlic, oregano, baking powder would be another example. Maybe you just need a little bit of sugar in a recipe. So small amounts is what you're gonna use your measuring spoons for. I also want you to notice the size of these containers. They're all pretty small compared to a 10-pound bag of flour or sugar. And so you're never gonna use a whole bunch of these ingredients in one recipe. So for example, if you are taking your salt and you are filling up an entire cup or even a half cup, that should be a red flag to you. This salt container will last in your cabinet a very long time. You're never gonna use a half cup or 1 cup in something that you are eating. The exception might be a Play-Doh recipe, but not food. And so if you're finding dumping out a whole container or half of this container, that should be a red flag. Go back to your recipe, double check your amounts. It might be a half teaspoon that you need, not a half cup. So it's really important to read your recipe very closely to know how much you need. All right, so it depends on your ingredient and the container it's in for how you are going to measure with the measuring spoons. So for example, salt has this pouring spout. You're gonna dump it right into your measuring spoon and then level it off. Vanilla is another example of that where you're going to pour it out. Now, some of these other containers, you can unscrew the entire lid and scoop it right in and level, or you can open it part way if your measuring spoon is small enough to fit in there. So it just depends on the ingredient that you're measuring with the technique that you're going to use. So I'm gonna show you baking soda real quick, because how this opens, we have this straight edge with the cardboard. So I can take my measuring spoon, dip it right into the box, and then scrape it off as I take it out. So I'm leveling it as I'm pulling it out of that box. Okay, Adelaide, why don't you show us how to measure salt? And I have this separate container here to hold the measuring spoon over, so in case some overfills or too much comes out, it'll be caught in this bowl instead of going all over the counter. And then we do want to fill it up and level it off. That's what the bowl is for. Scrape off the extra, and then you would put it into your mixing bowl. Good, so you can dump this out. And then you can do the same thing with vanilla. Maybe let's use the 1/4 teaspoon for the vanilla instead.
And with it being a liquid, you don't level it off, you just fill it right up to the top. Okay, good. Okay, that is it for our measuring demonstration. So those are just some staple ingredients, and what I mean by that is ingredients that are used in a lot of different things. So you might have some of these ingredients at home, and if you do, I highly encourage you to choose the assignment this week of videotaping yourself measuring out some of these ingredients. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, it doesn't have to be edited, it's only me that is going to see it, so don't be shy. But I do want to see that you are practicing some of these techniques, because measuring is the foundation of successful recipes. It's very important that you measure correctly to have your recipe turn out how it was intended to. All right, we will talk later.